Good afternoon. Welcome to Kent City Council Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. All right, first up, we have roll call. Melissa, maybe a roll call, please.
Council President Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Shoker.
Here.
And Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, agenda approval. Are there any changes to the agenda? If none, may I have a motion, please?
So move.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, under operations, we have approval of minutes for May 19, 2026. May I have a motion, please?
So move.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. All right. Payment of bills. We have seen those come through in our email. So if may I have a motion, please?
So move.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. All right. We're down to our economic and community development portion. Councilmember Larmer.
Thank you, Council President. We have Kristen Holdsworth, who is going to walk us through an ordinance amending Chapter 11.06, critical areas adoption. And for critical areas ordinance, it'll be up for adoption.
Good evening, Council. It's great to be with you today. This is the hopefully last presentation you'll hear from me on this topic for critical areas. We, as part of our comprehensive plan update process, the state requires not just that we update our comprehensive plan, which is for the vision for growth for housing and jobs, but also that we update our critical areas ordinance. And so critical areas ordinances are things like wetlands, streams, a bunch of different steep slope and geologic hazard areas. It does not include in this ordinance, it does not include updates for our floodplain and flood hazard areas because that's done through a separate process, as well as our shoreline management or master plan, which is done again through a separate process. So we will be talking more about those types of critical areas, but this focuses on the ones that are not floodplain and are not shoreline. And this is the final action to complete all of the work that culminated in the comprehensive plan update, and this is that very last step. So we started this work really in 2024, but kicked off a lot more publicly in 2025. We have then, since I think the last time I was here, we were still working through some of the stream buffers and some of the new changes of best available science compared to also some of our local on-the-ground conditions. We did do all public agency noticing as well as have hearings in January and February of this last year, and now we worked with our city attorney's office to get all of the drafting right, and we are here for you today for your consideration and adoption of this ordinance. So just a quick recap, we did submit the draft ordinance for the required 60-day notice period to the state. Overall, 3 state agencies replied with comments, a total of 65 comments. Many of them we included for incorporation. There were some that were recommendations and were more staff level, state level staff interpretation of what they would like to see compared to what the actual science or our local conditions say. And so we did provide a matrix of responses for that. In terms of public comments, we received 2 letters in the record from the Master Builders Association of Keenan Snohomish Counties, largely very positive, thanking us for the work and balancing efforts. There was one additional letter that came in, I believe it was earlier this week, and that is something that I just wanted to address briefly. We're not alone. Many jurisdictions are balancing and trying to figure out how to balance all of the Growth Management Act and state requirements. So we're required to add more housing, significant levels of housing, while also protecting the environment and increasing measures, as well as providing open space and economic development opportunities. There's 14 goals of growth management, and there's no specific prioritization to tell us this one is more important than the other. And so throughout this ordinance drafting process, we've continually had to say, how do we make this work for our community, given that we have these growth numbers and this existing condition in these previous development patterns, as well as the existing natural environment that is in our community. And so there's a lot of other like best available science, no net loss, all of these legal theories that have been tested as well. But what's before you today is what we believe is incorporating the best available science plus the policy interpretation that's necessary for our local community and the on-the-ground conditions, because a lot of times the best available science is focused on the 100% highly vegetated, pure rural resource working lands and not on suburban or urban conditions. And so there was a second part of the letter that also addressed something about building heights. We're having broader conversations about site design, and so this is something that we're including and having conversations with this same organization and developers with. You may recall end of the year last year, or early this year, we also had a conversation with you all about our tree ordinance, and that's something that's underway for adoption as well. And so we want to make sure that as we're doing work, we're thinking about it with site design and tree canopy and all of our goals in mind. And so that work is underway and those conversations are continuing. So a summary of the changes, one of the most significant changes in terms of implementation from a staff and an end user perspective is we have done a lot of administrative updates, because previously there would be information about vesting or information about mitigation or information about application materials throughout all the different types of critical areas. We moved all of that up to the front, so it's much easier and it's clear that it applies to all of the critical areas that are regulated under this chapter. We also revised some general mitigation and monitoring. We were requiring more monitoring years, so 7 years instead of 5, which is what is recommended for best available science. And so we revised that while providing us the opportunity and flexibility, if needed, to extend it if the project was significant to the point that it rose to that need. The wetland buffers changed slightly in comparison. The mitigation compensation ratio, so if you're doing work within a wetland or within that buffer, that was a significant change that's happening across all the cities, and the South King County cities adopted that in the same uniform way. Stream buffers were a really significant change for this one. This is one where we started with the best available science and then also looked at the local context for Kent. And some cities in South King County don't have many streams, so for them to do what the best available science recommended didn't really affect much because it was already publicly owned land that was already preserved. For Kent, we have streams pretty much wherever you can look. And so we needed to look at how we would balance that with takings of private property rights as well. And so what we came up with was, I think, a really elegant way to address that issue and achieve, again, the balance of the goals. For fish, wildlife, and habitat conservation areas, that it ties back into some of the streams as well as some other areas. We have urban separators, which also help with migratory patterns. And then geologic hazard areas and critical aquifer recharge areas. Not a ton of changes in these sections, mostly just changes to update what had been done by our public works team for the CARAs. They had already done a wellhead protection plan and some other work in the interim 10 years that we had been regulating, and so we incorporated that into this ordinance. So if you choose to adopt, this will go on the next consent calendar, June 16th, and then it would be effective 30 days after your final council action. Lindsay Walker is not here today, but she has been the prime leading this work. She is also working with Deja on our team. We're already starting to update our maps and our public-facing documents to make people aware of these changes. Mostly it's the development community and people that have projects in process. If they've already submitted permits, they're vested under the old code, but if they've submitted pre-apps and not submitted their actual permits, we've been in contact with all of those applicants to let them know that the codes are changing and they will be under the new code. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Question.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just curious, from the Land and Use Planning Board, did this come out unanimous decision from the board?
Yes, it was a unanimous decision. I'm sorry I didn't include that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Kristen? Okay, with that, I will read the motion. So I move to adopt ordinance number 4542, amending chapter 1106 of the Kent City Code entitled Critical Areas to update provisions regulating activities within critical areas. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, no discussion, so let's, I will take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Councilmember Larmer. All right, next up, we have Parks, Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 2 items tonight, and Brian Higgins is here to present on both. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. This is a good segue from what you just talked about, because actually these 2 projects will both work in critical areas, so nice little segue here. The first one we're going to talk about is the Mill Creek Canyon Lower Trail repair. Just to give you guys a brief little history, I think you guys all remember we've been working in Mill Creek Canyon for the last couple of years, doing a lot of trail maintenance and upgrades, so this is just one little aspect of that project. Let's see. Okay, so just to orient you to where we're talking about, so Mill Creek Canyon Earthwork Park is over just on the other side of the Senior Center in downtown Kent, and then the area we're working here is about a quarter mile from kind of the main earthworks park. And this is a little picture of the project area. It's a little bit hard to see right here, but where I've drawn the yellow line is where the trail used to exist. And over the past couple of years, especially with the flooding this past December, we've experienced a lot of wear in this area. And so we're going to be embarking on a project here to preserve this trail and to keep it in the spot. So this contract with geoengineers will start us with our environmental permitting. It'll get us going with our entry-level geotechnical work, and then take us through 30% and 60% design engineering so that we can move forward with the repair and keep this trail section in passable use. Happy to take any questions on this one.
Any questions for Brian? Okay, I will read the motion. I move to authorize the mayor to sign the consultant services agreement with Geoengineers Incorporated for the Mill Creek Canyon Trail Repair Project, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, up next, what we got?
And the next one is a project over on the Green River Trail. This is the Meeker Street Parking Area Improvement Project. And this is a project that we started a number of years ago looking at improvements that we can make out here. So again, a little project location map. So we're on the west side of the golf course, just off of Meeker Street. This is the current conditions of the parking lot. It's a gravel lot, and it's it's a highly used lot. Pretty much every time I'm over there, there's vehicles in this parking lot that are using the trail. This is kind of one of the things we're looking at fixing here. So this trail underpass was built in the 80s. I'm not sure of the exact date, but as you can see over the years, we've kind of slowly been losing it to erosion and to the river over time. So our plan is to repair this trail underpass and to update the parking lot with pavement. So put a little, just a little schematic in here of what we've been working on. So the parking lot would get pavement. We'd improve the drainage that runs along the road and goes through the parking lot. And then we'd replace the trail underneath the bridge and widen it out to kind of current standards today. So this contract amendment with KPFF, who we've been working with on design, is mainly aimed at designing some compensatory flood storage under the parking lot, and this is necessary because we're working in the floodplain. And this will take us through final permitting and then construction support. So I'd hopefully anticipate that we could build this project next year. Happy to take any questions on this one as well.
Brian, is this the only parking lot right there?
There is a parking lot on the other side.
Yeah.
It's mainly for the old fishing hole. There's probably...
No, not, is that across the street, though?
It's on the other side of Meeker Street. It's on
okay.
the south side of Meeker Street.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the main parking lot. And then the Frager Road is closed right there now. It's got a gate across it.
Okay, yeah. All right, this definitely needs it then. I wanted to make sure I was thinking of the right thing.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Brian? All right, I will read the motion. I move to authorize the mayor to sign the 7th Amendment to the Consultant Services Agreement with KPFF Incorporated, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you so much. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Councilmember Michaud. Okay, next up, we have Public Works, Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 2 items this evening. The first is information only, and it is on our residential traffic calming program. And I see Honey Maria's here. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maria. Today, I'm here to present an update on the Residential Traffic Calming Program, RTCP. The RDCP addresses liability concern in the City of Kent neighborhood. It gives a resident a formal process to bring their concern about speeding and cut-through traffic issues on residential streets to the attention of the city. And this continues to be a popular program among the residents. So it all starts with a resident request. The resident can contact us via calling, email, or they can submit a SeeClickFix request online. We need to hear from at least 5 addresses along the requested street. Then we conduct a traffic study and we collect data and we assign points to those data. And if it scores a minimum of 50 points, we conduct a follow-up study to confirm the data. Then we hold a public meeting to develop a concept, and the neighborhood then vote on the concept by mail-in ballot or online. And if the ballot is successful, it is constructed when funds are available. So in 2025, we received 29 requests, and we received 8 requests in 2026 so far. And we usually receive more requests in the summer when people are outside more often. Okay, so this map shows all the requests received since January 2018. We are including some of the requests from 2018 because traffic calming devices are currently being installed at some of the locations. So these are the 166 locations that are closed out as there were no response or not enough support or did not meet the program threshold of 50 points or the voting was failed. And we reached out to the residents via calling or email before closing out the requests. Okay, these are the 22 locations that are pending support from the neighborhood, and we will schedule the study as soon as we receive the support. So this map shows the 15 locations that are awaiting a traffic study. We have ordered the studies for most of the requests that have gathered support and will be completed soon. So this map shows the 4 locations that are awaiting the follow-up study or the confirmation study. These locations meet the program threshold of 50 points, and a follow-up traffic study is needed to confirm the data, and the studies have been ordered. Okay, this green line shows the 39 locations that met qualified for the traffic calming. They met the minimum requirement of 50 points, and the results were verified by a follow-up study. So since our last update on June 4, 2024, we received 59 new requests, evaluated 42 locations, and 9 locations were qualified. So this slide talks about the public process. So we conduct Zoom and in-person meetings simultaneously. We send out neighborhood mailings with meeting information for use by computer or phone, and all residents will get mailings even if the owner or taxpayer address is offsite. In these meetings, we gather ideas of possible traffic calming devices and locations and develop a plan, and then the neighborhood votes on this plan with mail-in ballot or online. So these are the 13 locations. We moved forward with the public process. So we conducted 9 public meetings this spring. So since our last update, we completed 21 meetings. We developed 24 concept plans, and 19 ballots were mailed, and 2 of the ballots are currently underway. So here are the 14 locations where ballots have been passed. Currently, the traffic calming devices are being installed at these 2 locations, and the locations are Southeast 244th Street and Southeast 224th Street. And the construction is completed on these 4 locations that are Southeast 216th Street, Southeast 222nd to 23rd Street, and these are the 4 streets in the neighborhood that is Southeast 233rd, 234th, 235th, to 36th Street. And the last one is Southeast 272nd Street. So this map shows the locations where the devices are currently being installed. Okay, and these are the 12 locations where traffic calming has been installed and the request has been closed out. So now let's talk about ballots. The minimum passing requirements for the ballots is 33% return rate and 55% approval rate. So here's an overview of the last 19 ballots since our last update in June 2024. 6 of the 19 ballots failed, 13 of the 19 ballots passed, and 5 were below minimum return rate of 33% and 1 below minimum approval rate of 55%. Okay, this slide presents an overview of all ballots since 2022 when we revised the ballot return rate and approval rate. So here, 17 of the 29 ballots passed, and 11 of 29 ballots failed. And we noticed that some of the neighborhood with apartments have struggled to meet the minimum rate requirement. So here we can see that 5 of the 11th Street failed return rates that had apartments, and 5 of the 7th Street with apartments failed to meet the return rate. And we are looking into ways to improve the return rate with neighborhood with apartments, such as we tried sending out postcards along with the ballot letter with QR codes so they can vote online, and that helps a little bit with the return rate. That's all I had to share today. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, Councilmember Larmer.
So question, when we send out the ballots, do they go to the resident or the homeowner?
They go to both on the current resident, the on-site residents, and also the homeowner and the taxpayer addresses.
Boyce.
Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you. Once we implement these, do we go back and do an assessment to see how they work?
Yes, after installing, and we have at least some months, like 2 to 6 months, then we do the assessment or like after study.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Council President.
And Councilmember Troutner. Thank you, Maria. Thank you for this presentation. I do notice a lot more, a lot more studies happening in neighborhoods. I've seen it in my neighborhood. A lot more bumps coming up and people asking, how's this happening? I'm like, were you part of the process? Oh, I missed the ballot. But something for our neighbors to look, pay attention to when they get the ballot, make sure they turn it in one way or another, or you'll be complaining whether you got the bumps or you didn't get the bumps. So, yeah, I've seen a lot more of those on my drive to drop off kids and pick up kids. So, yeah, thank you. Good work on this. And I do want to say that I think lowering the threshold has certainly, we've seen more progress in our community. So, and I think Councilmember Shoker has.
Councilmember Shoker.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's nice to see that we have a program where people can directly ask for improvements in their neighborhoods. Are the ballots or any of the material that gets sent out to the neighborhoods, are they translated?
No, they're like, okay, Eric can answer.
Hello, I'm Eric Preston, City Traffic Engineer. Yes, both on the postcard and on our letter, there is the QR code, and there is language in there that says basically scan this, and they will get a translation of it. They can go to the, it'll take them to the website to get the translation.
All right, any other questions? All right, wonderful. Thank you for being here. It's always good to hear how this program is working and how people can contact you. All right. Last for Public Works, we have a consultant agreement with KBA Incorporated for the 2026 storm sewer and sanitary sewer cured in place pipelining project. Jason Berry.
Good afternoon. I'm Jason Berry, Project Supervisor of Public Works Construction. Our 2026 storm sewer and sanitary sewer CIPP, or cured in place pipelining project, will install a new liner system with an existing heavily worn or otherwise compromised pipes. The scope of this work includes cleaning and TV inspecting existing lines, installation of a new felt lining system, a system that's injected with resin and cured in place by means of either hot water or steam. And then they go in and they restore any of the lateral connections into the sides of the pipe, and then grout those connections. And then after that's all done, they go in and TV it one last time and record that it's all good. During that process, we're taking samples of each run and taking those to a laboratory where they test them to make sure the product that's getting placed in that line is meeting our minimum standards. This year's contract relines approximately 6,800 lineal feet of storm drain pipe. The size is up to 30-inch in diameter, and approximately 10,000 feet of sanitary sewer main, ranging in size from 8 to 18 inches in diameter. The sanitary sewer portion, we're also installing 5 additional manholes for improved access. Due to the specialty nature of this lining work, we find it best to employ a consultant who is familiar with its unique installation methods and specific acceptance requirements. So that's why today I'm requesting the committee's authorization for a consultant services agreement with KBA Incorporated. They specialize in this type of work, and with authorization, they will provide construction management, contract administration, field inspection, while also ensuring satisfactory quality assurance testing. And with that, I'm done. If you have any questions.
Questions? Councilmember Boyce.
How do you go about selecting where and we got a lot of sewer line within the city, right? So
yeah,
is it something that trigger you that we need to replace this one here versus the one down the street?
Yeah, generally it's based off of our operations, repeat customers, I guess you will. Areas where we have problems that are consistent, either gaskets leaking on the joints, it's allowing water or fine silt to get into the pipe, or areas where we've had breaks and we've had to repair them, and this will create a smoother pipe when we're done for improved flows and things like that.
So we're pretty much in a reactive mode, right? I mean, because it's kind of hard to anticipate.
It's just a life expectancy too thing. It's a lot cheaper than going in and digging it all up and replacing it. So, and it's a very well proven product. So, works pretty good.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, I move to authorize the mayor to sign the consultant services agreement with KBA Incorporated, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And back to you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutner. With that, we are at the end of our meeting, and we will be back at 5:15 for our council workshop. Until that, we are adjourned. Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to Kent City Council Workshop for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. We have 2 items on our agenda, and first one is I'm very excited about this one. Community Passageway and Regional Office of Gun Violence Prevention, Chief Padilla. And we have some guests here as well. So, Luthra and Mark Rivers, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. Council President Kaur, members of the council, thank you for welcoming us tonight. And my name is Luthra Lish, and I serve King County as the director of the Regional Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which is housed in Public Health. And we are proud to have been partnering here with the City of Kent since 2020. In 2020, we saw, a severe uptick in gun violence across the nation, so much so that it became the leading cause of death for children and teens, above all other forms of injury and harm, and it persists as such. And so important to the presentation that we'll share today and the partnership we have with Chief Padilla and Mr. Rivers. I'll be illuminating some of the great work that's happening here to reduce violence, especially around young people. So thanks again for having us. And we'll dive right in. I'd like to offer sort of an overview of our office, and then we'll really focus in on the partnership. Thank you again also for joining us on the Board of Health presentation and for inviting us here. So with me, Mark Rivers from Community Passageways, and your very own and amazing Chief Padilla. And we'll jump into, I'm so used to telling somebody to advance a slide, look at me. So our office takes a public health approach, and what's important about that, and for what it's worth, a public health approach applies to so many things and allows us to destigmatize and look at the issues that we look at as health equity issues and make sure that we are providing the resources and meeting the needs of folks to make sure that they can be resistant to violence and moving in the right direction. So we collaborate with community and across systems to coordinate our efforts, and some of that you'll hear a little bit more from my co-presenters this evening. What's important on the graphic to the right-hand side that I would like to illustrate is our office serves essentially as a hubcap, and there's the wheel around that at the top of that clock, if you will, community partners and community-based organizations, community leaders. And as we make our way around the clock, we work with public health and medical partners, we work with law enforcement partners and criminal legal system partners, government, schools, etc. And we have the privilege of meeting each month with Mayor Ralph and Chief Padilla and our community organizations to build what we like to think of as a holistic public safety approach that includes community. So our work is organized around coordinating efforts, as I mentioned, and you see illustrated here, prevention work that we do, and we'll speak a little bit more about that in a second, intervention work, which you'll hear mostly about this evening, and finally, stabilization and restoration services that we provide. Coordination. You see your own Mayor Ralph here working with us along with Mayor Bacchus, and our effort is to align our key partners, and I mentioned a public safety approach, a holistic public safety approach, and we are looking to do joint responses and resource maximization by working well together. We're offering strategic guidance and technical assistance to our municipal partners. We do cross-departmental and cross-government coordination efforts, and that leverages city and county departments and helps teach how they best and most effectively work together. We conduct rapid response services and neighborhood stabilization services, and then we contract community organizations, so are accountable to providing really good oversight of those contracts and evaluation of the work that we fund. Our prevention efforts really aren't the upstream kind we mostly are familiar with when we think of prevention. In our case, we really focus on intervention with folks at a very high risk level, reducing their risk and therefore increasing more general total population safety. Our prevention efforts are centered around harm reduction activities, public awareness, public education. We do campaigns. We promote community engagement with directly impacted communities. We've done that certainly right here in Kent and all over King County. We convene and facilitate public safety meetings, and we partner with cities like Kent to do that as we are asked to. And our harm reduction activities, we're really proud of our long-standing partnership with you, and we'll look forward to hopefully seeing some of you on Friday for our annual Gun Lockbox giveaway event that we do right here at City Hall in front of the building every year and give Kent residents access to free firearm safe storage equipment. We're proud to do that. And we also do Stop the Bleed trainings and other sorts of accessible things for residents to get involved and find ways that they can contribute to ending gun violence or firearm injury. And then collaborating on youth violence prevention emerging issues is something that we do with lots of different players and partners. Our intervention intervention work, which we're going to focus mostly on this evening, contracted providers that our office puts out to 4 organizations who serve areas of South King County. Community Passageways is the organization that serves Kent under this structure that we're sharing with you. And just of note, this costs annually, our office contributes roughly $700,000 in services to the city of Kent. So just so that you're aware of that. The services that we fund, you'll hear a little bit more from Mark after I finish, but at a high level, these are community violence intervention services under the umbrella of what we call the Regional Peacekeepers Collective. These organizations partner very closely with each other and work together because violence doesn't respect, or gun violence doesn't respect a border or boundary. What affects South Kent can affect North Auburn, and it's very important for us to be able to make sure that there's a web of support for our young people. The population in focus that these services are currently focused on are 12 to 24-year-olds at risk of being either victims or perpetrators of gun violence in the near term. And it's important that we provide them extensive and comprehensive services because that reduces risk for everybody. The services, Mark will talk a little bit more about in a minute, but violence interruption, critical incident responding, a community-led approach, outreach that they do, intensive engagement, which has also a feature of cognitive behavioral intervention, helping young people with mindset change and positive lifestyle choices, and community safety operations for things like vigils and funerals, where they provide added support in partnership with law enforcement and coordination with law enforcement. The current areas we service are Burien and, of course, here Kent, Federal Way, Renton, and unincorporated King County and Skyway and White Center with these services, specifically these funded services. And then we work with other cities on other areas. I do want to highlight that part of our public awareness campaign you see illustrated here, an innovation by one of our staff members, Ariana, who's actually joining us here tonight, created a comic book series to bring clarity to the different parts of this kind of work, making it accessible to young people in plain English so that people can understand. And so we're really excited to see how the uptake of that is people having access to and a better understanding of the kind of work that we do. Mark, who you will hear from in a minute, is featured right there in the comic holding a microphone. We also fund a hospital-based intervention at Harborview Medical Center, where we provide bedside assistance through the incredible people that you see featured here in the photograph, themselves survivors of gun violence who meet bedside with every firearm injury victim from any part of the state, because Harborview is the only level 1 trauma center servicing 3 states. Alaska, Idaho, and here, Washington State. And so they are well equipped to do this kind of service. This bedside service extends to providing some immediate assistance and stabilization needs for families. That can look like rental assistance, that can look like food supports. And then they're referring eligible young people into the services I named on the last slide. And they're also providing bereavement and trauma support for folks who unfortunately lose their life in the hospital. And that means expedited access to crime victims assistance and those sorts of things, and they really walk beside people. And again, you see some of those incredible workers featured in our comic book work. Our last suite of services, and you see an incredible example of our team in action, Deontay right there featured in the front. The stabilization and restoration services allows us to provide a keen and specific kind of survivor engagement, a post-incident rapid response. Our team is deploying and making sure that on the county side, we are able to make sure that we meet the immediate needs and support law enforcement in their effort where it's appropriate by making connections to families and then walking alongside of the families as they restore and begin their healing journey. And then our neighborhood stabilization is something that we do in high impact areas where there is a need for ongoing supports. And that can look like engaging with other departments, city and county departments, to do things like crime prevention through environmental design assessments, to do graffiti paint outs, to do other things that residents raise as their concerns in the aftermath of incidents of violence. What's exciting about the services, while this is deeply underfunded in terms of evaluation, we still are seeing very, very promising trends and data. One of the most key, important things of note is that gun violence is down 61% since last year. No, I'm sorry. In 25, we saw a 65% reduction, 28% reduction so far this year over last year in the first quarter of the year. And how that tracks to the work that we are funding, here you see the geographic service areas that I named earlier, and of important note, they are all consistently trending down. So that's a promising snapshot of what we would like to now more deeply evaluate so that we can come back and say with great certainty what contributing factors are getting these results. What we do know is law enforcement and community partnerships are the best and most contributing factor to date. And what I would like to also just highlight here specifically about Kent before I turn it over to the spotlight with our two guests, my two co-presenters, we use the EMS, Emergency Medical Service Firearm Injury Data Dashboard. We house that in public health. And as we look at that, what's very promising to see is first, while things have gone up and down since 2019, and you can see that there were trends here at the top line in Kent that went starkly up and then came starkly down. What you also see is in 25 a steep decline, so much so that while King County overall has actually finally reached for young people involved in firearm injury and violence, since pre-pandemic, we have finally come down below pre-pandemic rates, which is very exciting. And more exciting than that is that Kent is even lower than everywhere else. That bottom trend line is King County overall, and Kent, thanks to the incredible work of your law enforcement agencies and community providers, we believe are helping to contribute for juvenile-involved incidents, this steep decline that we're seeing. And you are our spotlight, and tonight we're going to look at a specific service called Safe Passage, and I'm going to be turning it over to Chief Padilla next, and then Mark will circle back behind him to explain both the law enforcement side of the work and the community side of the work. Chief Padilla.
Thank you. All right, Council President and members of the Council, thank you for the opportunity to provide this update on the work we've been doing. I'll start by noting that a couple of important points up front. While the focus of this presentation is our work with prevention and intervention, it's a good reminder that it takes all the components of it, right? So prevention, intervention, and accountability have to be multiple prongs for this to be successful. Second, we have way too much violence still. So I don't want anybody to read this report as we declaring victory and that we are on the right trend. We are doing everything we can to keep the numbers going down, but I don't want anybody to think that we think our job is done yet, because it's not. But we do want to celebrate the progress we have so far and be mindful that most important thing to all of us is that we'll do whatever we have to do to protect our kids. That's the bottom line here, right? All right, so gun violence trends in Kent, as you know, in the prior slides you saw that Kent has historically had a higher rate of violent firearms-related crime, and we are in a good spot now, trending down for the last couple of years. Violence in South King in general, as you know, it's not just unique to Kent. It seems to be this entire area down here, and some of the factors that contribute to Kent being an area of high need are as follows. We've talked a lot about our city being one of the top 5 most diverse cities in the country, right? With, I hear 130 to 140 languages spoken in our schools, which is a beautiful thing and makes us richly diverse. But what comes with that is our school district has a disproportionate amount of students. If you didn't know, Kent School District is the 3rd biggest school district in the King County area. And what this means is we have more kids per racial, and I'll give you an example here. Seattle is obviously the largest school district, and while they only have we only have 1/5 the population of Seattle, we have half as many students as they serve. Seattle serves 50,000 students, Kent serves about 25,000, and the significant difference in resources there, right? So some of this is a little bit of numbers, right? So we have higher ratio there. And so there's that, I bring that. So it does bring some challenges for us in terms of the total volume of the youth we are serving. So what are we doing about the problem? Suffice it to say that these positive outcomes reflect an intentional strategy of coordinated response and multiple stakeholders from multiple disciplines across King County. Again, we implement a multi-pronged approach, and the focus for today's presentation is on prevention and intervention. But again, it takes all of those efforts. Let's see here. Some of these things include, I want to touch on real quick, regional effort, using data to connect shootings across regions, information. You've heard me in prior presentations talk about tracking shooters through the use of their guns regionally, sharing information with our partners, using technology to be on top of that. including our ALPRs. Also visible presence. What's occurred in the last couple of years is increased presence because of our staffing and our partnership with Metro. Their officers have been down in and around our transit centers more consistently as well. So that's contributing. And then just to remember that we have school resource officers at the school districts that are also impacting these areas. So community collaboration, I'm going to make sure nope, whoops. Knew that was going to happen. And our partnership with Regional Office of Gun Violence and specifically community passageways. I want to say up front, I've worked with Eleuthera and her team for years. I think this is our 6th gun lockbox event this Friday. And it's been an excellent ride and a great partnership. But I also want to say that at first, when we started working together, I wasn't really sure that this was going to work, to be honest. With all the limited resources and what we're focused on in terms of the crime fighting and the enforcement and the investigations, I originally had a really difficult time imagining how we were going to contribute resources to this additional process and was I going to help or not. Well, I'm here to say that it is working. The data set that we're going to show is limited, but there are stats that are showing that this combined multi-pronged effort is working. And so that's great news, and we should highlight that. Let's see here. Get into it. So this slide here represents just 1 year of content, so it's a very short data set. But if you look at that, when I first saw this data, I thought we had forgotten to report out for the months of June through December of 2025, and that somehow we forgot to put something in for March. That is not a typo. Those blanks that you see there on the graph that record 0 youth incidents means that we had 0 youth incidents during those months. And they're not just violent incidents. These are total calls that we received through our 911 dispatch center, which gives us kind of a look at what's going on in terms of volume. And so that is a drastic drop in 1 year. And the 2 areas of focus that I should have mentioned earlier is that we have used our data and we've located 2 areas and Mark's team focuses on is up at KM, Kent Meridian High School, and then down at the transit center here in downtown Kent, the Sounder Transit Station, which is 2 blocks away from Mill Creek Middle School. So as you know, once the kids get out of school, a gathering spot for them often is right there at the transit center, and so we do have incidents. So this is indicative of where we have asked our partners with Community Passageway, Mark and his team, to be. They've been a visible presence. They've been there connecting with the kids. And in addition to our additional visible presence, we are seeing incidents go way down. Okay, again, we have a lot more data to collect, but this is definitely a good trend. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mark.
Hello, everyone. Mark Rivers, Deputy Director at Community Passageways. Thank you for having us today. He said something about us being visual, being visible. Well, that's what the shirt is for. So that we're visible. You'll see my team every single day outside in these colors, just like he wears a uniform. When you see that uniform, you think, okay, there's somebody who's here to keep us safe, right? It's the same thing when they see this uniform. We know that there's somebody there that cares about us. So in the acronym CVI, right, Community Violence Intervention, a lot of people ask, like, what does it mean? Like, what does that mean? You're going to intervene in violence. Sometimes it is stepping in between 2 young people when they're going to fight. But more than anything, what it's about is having that relationship. And I always say it's the secret sauce. Will they listen to you at a time where their emotions are not regulated? Can you get them to come back to normalcy and listen for a second so that their emotions don't allow them to make a wrong decision that cost them their life? That's the secret sauce. So when we intervene, that's what we intervene with that relationship. But what does that take? When we talk about safe passage, the word safe and then passage, right? As a mom, I'm a dad. I want my passage for my young person, for my daughter, to be safe when she goes to get on that bus. I want it to be safe when she walks outside of that school. I want it to be safe when she goes to McDonald's to lunch and come back. Well, we're like the construction signs, I say. We're the warning signs. In the Safe Passage model, and it's not just to Washington, but they have it in Chicago, they have it in Detroit, they have it in LA, and there they have 700 murders. So this is not something that we're just trying, this is something that's tried in places that have way more going on than we do. But in that Safe Passage model, it says high vis. So if you look at the screen right now, I am the brightest thing in the room, and that is intentional. We had an incident. I just give you real time. So yesterday, there was a young person who used to come down to Kent Station, and he used to be one of the bullies, tough guys, and he started going into weapons, actually. And he was put out of school from up here in Kent, and he's out south somewhere. Well, yesterday, him and his friends, they decided that they want to come back to their old territory. But he used to be on one of our caseloads. We've worked with him. We've went and advocated on his behalf and spoke for him, to his character, not to his actions. And so the care that he has for the person that used to walk with him, what was able to happen today was, yesterday, it hit social media. There's going to be a big fight. Might be weapons involved. We made a plan today. We called him, didn't answer. We made a plan today to still go down. And where most people, they would run away. And they would use the resource of Chief Badia and his officers that are already stretched thin. But if we don't have to, and we have the relationship, and we're also part of the public safety ecosystem, then why can't we be called in? And so we called, he didn't answer, so what did we do? We went down there today. And we went down there and we made sure that that passage was safe for those kids coming from Mill Creek and Kent Meridian to make it home today. I got a text, I think an hour before I got here. It said everything's all green. Green means it's good. They came. Some of his friends came. We met him before they could get all the way off the bus, and we rerouted him. And was able to take him out of there, and the rest of the kids were able to feel safe without us there who has that relationship. And so when we talk about the reality of Safe Passage, I want everybody always to just think to yourself, while we're sitting on our desk, while we're working, while he's doing what he's doing, while we're stretched thin, can we have some superheroes that are brave enough to go down there and stand? Maybe bullets might have flew today. We don't have vests. But what we do, we have the heart, we have the determination, we have the care for our young people, that we show up every single day and we do this dangerous work. And by the numbers, along with everybody, like you guys are also a part of the ecosystem, the decisions that you guys make. The county, Regional Office of Gun Violence, it takes the full ecosystem. With that, that's what we're doing, you guys. We've got it down to 0. We've got our babies safe. And so that's what Safe Passage is. That's what it's about. The collaboration, I'll just speak and I'll get off my soapbox. But the collaboration with Chief Badia. So a lot of times people like to pit, it's either PD or it's CBOs, community-based organizations, right? Both can't keep us safe. Actually, yeah, it takes us both, actually. It takes us all. And like Chief said, he was a little weary because of whatever history, but we sat down as humans, across from each other, looked each other in the eye, said, hey, this is how I feel, that's how you feel. Respectfully, let's go from here, give each other a fair chance, a fair slate. And the relationship works. Why? Because of the respect. The respect for the hard job that they have to do. Go out there every single day and make sure that we're all safe. But also, when we go and we actually do the work that's needed to be done, the respect that comes our way for them not having to be called, for a shooting not happening today, for Kent Meridian and the transit station to be safe places to where they can go do work other places. And it's a one-way. Let us know that something's going on. And guess what? We'll go find out through our relationships who it is, get that young person, put them on a caseload, and walk them through those challenges that we've all have faced as young people. And hopefully get across that stage and make their mom proud. That's what Safe Passage is. So I thank you.
Chief, I wanted to ask Mark. Mark, you want to share? I've already heard at Board of Health, but my colleagues haven't, the work that you do in schools, mentoring and helping find resources and providing food and other support building relationships. If you want to just touch on that.
For sure. There's a few pillars within inside CBOs, right? We have violence interrupters, we have outreach workers, we have critical incidents responders, where our violence interrupters go inside the school. And those young people, mom showed up today. He didn't eat this morning. He's being picked on. He doesn't have the bandwidth because there's been yelling at home to show up, and now you want him to focus on math at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, instead of putting him out of class, right, we're there. They say, hey, can you talk to JJ? And just by having a conversation, not throwing him away because he's too difficult, but having a conversation. And we found out he was hungry. Mom was yelling. Your sister was crying all night last night. You didn't get good sleep. And you just need somebody to care for you today. And turning that hungry stomach and that frown into, hey, let's go across the street. Let's go to McDonald's. Oh, what's going on with you and Mom? Okay, we buy groceries. Let's go put $300 and $400 worth of groceries in there. How come Mom's got a bill? Can we help? And so there are resources, more resources needed, so we can do more of that. But those are the things, and when Mom calls back and she's in tears, she says, thank you. Her mom calls and says, I don't know what you said to this boy, but his room's clean today. He's ready to go tomorrow. And then his teachers come and say it. And say he's showing up different. Yes, because he's got support. He's got somebody that cares. He's not walking by himself, but he's walking with somebody who's highly trained, highly knowledgeable, and highly invested into that young person being alive and being free. So with that, I'll take back my time.
Yeah. Mark kind of covered it. One of the things I didn't cover was the development of the relationship. And that's been really the turning point. We got away from looking at our individual silos of what needs to be done in our lanes and realizing that needed to come. And that came a lot. Mark touched on it through building trust, human to human. So we've been in training together. We've been in conversations together. I think a way that that trust has been really manifest is when you hear people advocate for each other, right? How many times do you see organizations advocating for law enforcement these days and to be partners with them? It's still not completely where I'd like it to be, but it's growing, and that's a huge thing, right? And then for us as law enforcement partners to advocate for them is a huge thing. We've got a meeting coming up in July, and we're going to try and we'll talk to the rest of the King County Chiefs to see if we can expand the involvement and the reach in this. But as you can see, I think it's matured a lot over time, and it's something that we got to keep trying. The mantra is we will do anything it takes to make sure that our kids are safe, and so that's where that's at. But big props to Mark and his team for building that trust.
Councilmember Boyce, do you have a question?
I was going to finish. Are you finished?
Okay. All right.
Just going to round us out to the next slide, which is to just offer you this, you already know, but our gun lockbox giveaway, the proclamation, I believe, will be read out at the end by you, Council President, at the gun lockbox giveaway, our 6th annual, and we'll be right in front of this building, 2:30 to 4 p.m. on Friday, which is National Gun Violence Awareness Day. So just wanted to make sure you had that. And then here we're open to any questions you have.
All right, Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you. Question for Mark here. Just want to, the one thing you can tell about a human being is the passion that they have for the job. And I can see the passion on your shoulders. I really, truly appreciate you and everything you're doing for our kids today. I got a couple of questions is that I'm just curious. You get up every morning, you go to your job. What is it that excites you about your job? And the second question is, what opportunity that you see that could help you do your job better?
So the first one, man, I was that kid. I grew up without a mom and without a dad. I grew up as granny's baby. And grandma, she do the most that she can. But while she's taking care of the rest of the cousins, who's there to make sure that you're good? And so I grew up as a kid who was neglected. I grew up as a kid that was left. And I don't want another kid to feel that way. So for me, that's why I got into the work, to make sure that the relationships that I build, you know that you have somebody to call. Whether it's 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, you can call me. We'll figure it out, whatever it is. Call me tomorrow, we need to go to court, let's go to court. We need to go to class so we can talk to the teacher. I'll speak the language, let me be the bridge, let me be the translator. But I know what it feels like to feel alone. I know what it feels like to feel like you don't have protection. Don't have a trusting adult that I can tell stuff to. Hey, I don't feel like going to football practice today. Yeah, well, you still gonna go, and I'm gonna support you, and you're gonna be better for going. That's what we do, and so that's why I get up every day. And so, which is different for me now. I used to be boots on the ground, but now I'm responsible for raising up the next set of leaders. And so I feel my job's even more important because it's those adults that are gonna go out there, and I'm still gonna go. If I need to go, I'm still gonna go. But it's raising up those next set of leaders that's actually, that my passion is being fed through at this point. What we need more of is sustainability, funding. We have this weird thing, right? And I'll just be transparent. If the data shows that we drop the rates and kids aren't being shot, we say we don't need as many resources. Well, guess what happens when you take away the resources? Problem comes back. And so it's sustainability. So we can take it from it being 6 months at 0, now we're at 18 months. Now we're at 36. And now Kent is a example for the rest of the country of what it looks like to get this thing right. If we don't do a good job, guess what? Funding goes away. So I would ask, what success look like? What allows us to maintain funding? What allows us to get more? So that I can raise up more leaders and we can cover more ground and we can get to the Kentwoods and Kent Ridges and we can go out to Auburn and get up to Cle Elum, wherever we're needed. But that's what's needed.
And it's just a comment, right? I like a green hat with the A in the middle, but we can get one that say S in the middle for Seattle.
I know.
If you choose to do it,
it's coordinated.
It's second place athletics.
Okay. I just want to make sure you know where you was at, bro.
It was just coordination.
All right, fair enough.
I appreciate you.
Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
If I could just add and share, Mark and I have had the privilege of working with each other for over 18 years. And when Mark started his boots on the ground, I was also just getting to know Chief Padilla. So yes, it's been 6 years of an official relationship, but since you've been chief, a long, long time. And so just want to underscore the power of relationships and Mark's point about sustainability. Relationships like these aren't easy to sustain, but when they're sustained, we get results like this. And so, thank you for letting me add that. Are there other questions that we can answer?
Councilor Michaud has a comment or a question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Thank you so much for being here. My question is for Mark. What does a typical day in Kent look like for one of your people who are out doing the work?
So 8:30, when we're all still stretching, getting our coffee, they are out actually at the station because the kids come in. And we know a kid that's hungry might be ornery in the morning. But anything can happen. So the other thing that we have...
Mark, the stations are in school.
Kent Station is...
Kent Station.
Yeah, Kent Station. And so it's close to Mill Creek. And so those are all the middle school kids that come and walk across the street, right? But also the Kent Meridian kids also go up there. But also who's out there is the kids that don't go to school. the young adults, the 22s, 23s, and 24s that aren't in school, don't have a job, but also the unhoused folks are out there. And so you have a mix of things that could go wrong in the morning. And so we're that buffer. And so we come, make sure they're at 8:30. They usher the kids to school. They'll go up, and between iGrad, Kent Meridian, they go and check on the young people that they serve. During lunchtime, about 11:30, we are doing Safe Passage in front of Kent Meridian or iGrad, depending on the day. And so we're making sure that the fights that used to happen at McDonald's, they're not happening any longer, because those things are the things that lead to shootings. So the fights don't happen. iGrad, making sure with the small population that they have, that we know everybody's name. And if we can put them on the caseload, they're on the caseload, and we check on them throughout the day. That's lunch. And then we go back into the community. Well, they go have lunch. We do give them a break. But then they go back in and might have to go to court, to go court support. Might have to go do a home visit. That takes us into the 3 o'clock hour. Once we get to 3 o'clock hour, it's prime time, it's showtime again. We're back on Safe Passage. All right, Kent Meridian, Safe Passage, make sure that they can all get on the bus. Get on the bus, once it's clear, we come down to Kent Station. Kent Station, we come down, and the hodgepodge that comes, the after-work traffic and all that, we're there until it disperses and everybody's on the bus and everybody goes home. And the things that we stop, that's what people often say, like, you can't qualify like what didn't happen, right? I would say look at what was happening before we were there. And we could say it doesn't happen now. So that's what a typical day looks like. You're welcome.
Councilmember Shoker.
So what qualifies as what a gun violence incident?
So there's a spectrum. Let me just say that.
Where does it start?
Where does it start? It starts at somebody speaking to somebody rudely. Is where it starts. And somebody's emotions are being flicked. And somebody not having the emotional intelligence as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old who has trauma to be able to handle that situation the right way. And that goes from them feeling like either they've been taught that somebody disrespects you, quote unquote disrespect, you handle it with physical violence. Or they've been taught to walk away, and that didn't work because then I got bullied. And so then what it turns into a fear. A fear that I might go on social media and I'm being beat up, and now I'm the laughing stock of the city. And it goes from there to how do I get in front of this and how do I protect my name? To the point where I will make the decision that is going to cost me the rest of my life and my freedom behind embarrassment, behind my emotions, behind not having somebody to talk me through that, behind not having somebody to go and mediate, de-escalate, and then heal whatever that thing is, whatever that issue is. And so the thing is it's those little fires that turn into the big fires. And so we're there so we can catch the little fires when they're making fun. Hey, don't be picking on him. Don't make fun of her. Oh, she's not going to school because her shoes are too small, because she doesn't have product to do her hair. That's where outreach workers come. Girl, let's go buy some hair product. Let's go get what you need. Let's go get you some basic needs. And too often, no, it's not the end all be all. We don't have it to give them everything that they need, but we have just enough so that we can maybe get their ear, maybe get their attention for long enough to where they can grow, and they can say, you know what? Instead of the next time I feel like that, I'm gonna haul off a hitter. I'm gonna call my outreach worker first, and I'm gonna tell my outreach worker I'm gonna hit her so she can tell me not to. That gives me the excuse not to hit her now. So that's what it is. As long as we're there for those things and we're being trusted to be called first, we can put out the fire. You're welcome.
I'm just going to add one little more sliver to that. So Mark is really focusing in tonight on the safe passage function. And there, in the other slide, I think, and I'm happy to just slide back to it just to give you a quick sample, that in this case, violence interruption and critical incident response, so Mark described it in the context of the hotspots that Chief Padilla identified, the locations where we have services happening in Kent. But if a shooting has happened and after the shooting, they are deploying to also spot for potential threats of retaliatory violence and to make those same relational connections to make sure that that incident doesn't go further. And they're making sure that as families may arrive, if a scene is active for a longer period of time, that they can form, again, using those relationships, connections to the families and to be able to help connect them to other services that they will need in the immediate aftermath of an incident of gun violence. So that's more, and we're always happy to come back and share much deeper and more about what actually happens in the critical incident responding, which is just slightly different than the safe passage we focused in on tonight. And that would include, active threats of shootings. So they will begin engagements with an active threat. If Chief Padilla sends a notification over that he has a concern, again, they can use their relationships to see what they can prevent. But in the event that something has actually happened, there's a whole set of services that follow that individual and that family until we get to a place of some reconciliation. They're also mapping conflicts. Yep. So when conflicts are active, they're talking to each other. I mentioned that we are a regional approach, that these organizations are interconnected. If something happens in Seattle, but the person lives in Kent, they are able to talk to each other about what happened and try to get to the bottom of who's involved in that conflict and tamp it down before it escalates. So Mark mentioned rigorous training, and they are rigorously trained in de-escalation and mediation and conflict resolution and in street tactical safety to protect themselves and to help remove dangerous individuals unless it's necessary for law enforcement to intervene, in which case they absolutely don't interfere and stay out of the way for law enforcement to do their work.
Thank you. Thank you, Luthra. Thank you, Mark, for the presentation. And thank you, Chief, for building great relationships with, multiple organizations. We have Project Be Free, and then we have Community Passageways. I think your team has done a great job building relationships in our community. So thank you, Mark. I think we do have another questions about funding. I think King County is supporting a lot of these programs, and Kent is as well. But do you foresee any changes to that in the future or with the new leadership at King County?
I think with any new administration, we're in the same, sort of transition period and waiting to understand how things are prioritized and to make sure that we are certainly always making the case for and sharing this information with decision makers. I think the data is very promising and enticing, and gun violence, unfortunately, until it's eradicated, will be a high priority for the county and is a very deep priority for our executive. So we don't know because resources are scarce. We know that at the federal level, this funding, I was part of the Biden administration transition team and formed recommendations about funding this component of work. We were able to secure $5.6 billion in the federal budget over a period of time to deeply invest in community violence intervention. It came to incredible scale, and we've seen historic lows across the nation where these services have been implemented. The federal government did remove all of that funding at the administration change, and so that has a ripple effect, of course. And then at the state level, there have been significant and deep cuts to the Office of Firearm Injury and Violence Prevention, which has funded this work historically and provided some funding for other parts of the work with other partners that Chief Padilla also works with. And at the county level, we have, faced severe budget cuts, and we've rebounded in some cases from legislation in Olympia. But those, to be, specific and more exact, is really we're waiting decisions to be made. And as I mentioned, we currently we fund, the county funds, our office funds, and invests in the strategies here in Kent. And we're proud to do it. But there's always the option of other approaches should resources become more scarce.
Thank you, Luthra, for answering. Councilor Michaud?
Thank you for explaining all that. My question was, how do young people get referred to community passageways?
There's a variety of referrals that, and one of the most important part of referrals is for the agency, for any young person to see the need for the services themselves and self-refer. And families refer, and schools refer, and the hospital refers, and in some jurisdictions, law enforcement refers. The trust is so critical, as Chief Padilla mentioned, it takes time to build trust, and these are very sensitive cases and matters. We're also working with the juvenile courts. So there are different pathways, and those can always be strengthened, but schools, pastors, families, and post-incident, when we have relationships with young people, they are being referred in by their own outreach workers who have seen them in incidents, and recognize that they need to be enrolled in services.
Any other questions or comments? I just want to again say kudos, Chief, and to all the team members here on our gun violence numbers, and hopefully we'll keep that trend going. And thank you so much for all the work that you do, and we'll always have a listening ear if you have some feedback or suggestions of how we can help. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again.
All right. Next presentation is information technology updates, and looks like our IT director, James, is on his way here. Welcome. James Endicott.
Excuse me. Thank you very much, council members. I apologize. I'm recovering from a cold, so I'm going to try to get through this and then transition this over to Brian. So, James Endicott, IT Director for the City of Kent. As most of you know, Mike Carrington retired in January, and so we kind of felt like this was a great time to come in and kind of update you on the IT department and some of the things that we're doing. Before I begin, I do want to take a minute to thank city leadership, department partners as well, and especially the IT staff. The work that you're going to hear about today really is only possible because of the support and the partnership and the dedication that we have of the team. So a big shout out to them. With the transition in January, we started looking at how can we provide better services to the city. And so we made some organizational changes, and so at the high level, we just wanted to share the most noticeable change on the org chart is moving our our development team under our project management team. Creates a little bit more synergy between the developers and the project managers who are working directly with the departments on their projects. That's the most noticeable. There's some internal things that are lower down in the org that, again, is really focusing on us delivering better, more consistent services to our partners. One of our primary goals in the department is creating a one IT culture. Historically, IT has kind of been a bunch of specialized teams, and while that expertise is still really important, we are placing a greater emphasis on collaboration, shared priorities, and delivering consistent experiences to our customers, regardless of where customers are engaging with IT. At the same time, we're working to balance today's operational needs with the longer-term planning, ensuring we're making investments to improve our reliability, our efficiency, and our sustained technology going forward. Today's presentation is intended to provide the high-level overview of where we're headed and some of the key initiatives to help us get there. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Brian before I start coughing uncontrollably. So this is Brian Rambunga, Project Manager, Office Manager for the IT Department. Thank you guys very much.
James. Evening, Council President, Council members, Brian Rambunga, Manager in your IT Department. Before, like James said, we kind of dive into all of the more so kind of critical technology initiatives for the city. Just wanted to go through a couple of diagrams just to give a little bit of background and some context into our technology roadmap. So in 2017, 2018, this is what our technology roadmap kind of looks like, developed during the era of Mike Carrington. The colored bars really just represented our legacy business system replacement initiatives. And down at the bottom, that's when James was looking to spin up our Security Operations Center. So this was our work plan and our roadmap started in 2017, 2018. So take us to 2025, 2026. This is what our future kind of more modern work plan and or roadmap looks like now. You can see the technology initiatives, and we'll dive a bit more deeper into some of the more critical initiatives that we wanted to highlight for council this evening a little bit later on. But a lot of the initiatives now versus them being business systems replacements are technology initiatives that revolved around new programs and or services that were developed and are created by our resident-facing departments like Public Works, Parks, ECD, and the Police Department, our public safety partners. So this roadmap or work plan is a little bit long and it extends to just about 3 slides. Okay. And then really just to highlight a couple of recent major accomplishments since our last update to council just about a year and a half ago. We did get through deployment of a couple of new security tools, all focused around our Zero Trust Architecture program, which I know James has briefed the council on sometimes probably within this last year. We have a new secure email gateway from Mimecast. We have a new certificate lifecycle management system called Sectigo. And in our public safety space, for the replacement of our legacy records management system, Tiburon, which was about a 25-plus-year-old system, that was replaced with 2 different systems. The patrol side went to Axon Records Management, and the corrections side went to Black Creek JMS. What we also did is we got through a critical integration with Valleycom to integrate the dispatch system, our 911 dispatch system, with Axon RMS. So a lot of key components as it relates to public safety and dispatch were deployed at the beginning of this year and Q3, Q4 of last year. And then kind of last but not least, we really wanted to just highlight the Kiva retirement. It was such a significant effort that we thought it proper to, say thank you, send shout outs to a few key players, ECD leadership, who you guys know, Kurt, Matt, and Barbara, but also a few key players within IT, Jen Graff, Eva Bukarich, who's our Amanda developer, and she's also a contractor. But more that everyone on the team really kind of just stepped up to get Amanda to where it is today and to ensure that Kiva was sunset completely because of a couple of critical technology dependencies. The remaining permit types that were still in Kiva were really just rapidly migrated over a 6-month period to, again, get Amanda to where it is today and to ensure that Kiva was offline completely. Okay, now I'm going to dive into some of the noteworthy department initiatives. Again, we're cherry picking from about a total of 612 initiatives. It looks a little heavy on the IT side because IT does track its operations, some internal initiatives that the management team does go through. But we generally run year over year about 25 active projects, and I'll probably highlight just under half today for council. So in regards to our strategic plan, just a quick heads up on how a majority of the IT projects are funded and a little bit into that process for some background. Through City Code, IT is given a little over about $1,006,000 to distribute across our software and hardware lifecycle accounts. These accounts act like a piggy bank that IT can allocate funds to every year so that when hardware or software reaches its end of life, we're able to replace it with funds in these from these designated accounts. Emergent projects are for new technology and known to not replace a legacy business system are essentially funded through our biennial, mid-biennial budget process. But as you can see at the top, we have specific hardware lifecycle accounts for hardware. And then for 25 and 26, we allocated a couple of dollars from that 1.6 million to our software lifecycle accounts that are indicative of departments. And not every department was allocated to, mainly because when we look at their roadmap for new technology, there isn't a plan just yet. But we'll continue to work on that through our mid-biennium and our regular biennial budget process. So again, a lot of focus, at least as you can see here, on IT systems, finance systems, of course, since we have JDE replacement coming up, and public works systems.
Brian, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So the tax system enhancement, is that part of the finance or is that different project?
It is our tax system, and I'll be touching on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So for our first major initiative within the IT department internally for us is the department strategic roadmap for 2026 to 2032. IT is working with a consultant to get through this roadmap, to build this roadmap for 26 to 2032. This roadmap matters because it helps define where IT is today, where we need to go, and how we will measure progress and accountability. It will enable the department to be more proactive in identifying risks, opportunities, and emerging threats while reducing reactive work and unplanned spending. The major goal for this roadmap to be produced for the department is really to just create a clear, practical plan that improves the efficiency, reliability, security, so that we can support our partners in the city departments, ultimately serving the residents. And at the end, we really just do expect from our consultant to provide for us a document that sort of serves as the North Star to help us determine tasks and deliverables, potentially even new projects that we may need to request funding for in the next biennium, to work through that plan up until 2032. Okay. We're also working on an AI strategy. So on this strategy, through AI, the goal is to really just improve resident services, support staff, and strengthen decision-making while protecting privacy, public trust, and responsible use. So as you can kind of see through the 5 squares, right in the middle, it sort of lays out at a milestone kind of task level, sort of the steps that we would propose that the city kind of go through to implement AI, artificial intelligence strategy. The first one being, of course, governance and policy. Second one being security, privacy, and compliance. The third one, which we would assume a lot of conversation be generated around, is AI should be a workforce multiplier. It can help staff work more efficiently, but it should support, not replace, human judgment. Fourth, look to allocate and focus high-value use cases to improve services, operations, and internal efficiencies. And then fifth, really just look to start small, measure those results, and kind of scale responsibly, again, based on the value, the risks, and the readiness of the city. This timeline kind of gives us a phased approach. First build that governance and education, then pilot use cases and standards, and eventually scale successful solutions with continued oversight. We're officially in kind of that first building the governance and the policy and education phase and/or stage.
Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Madam President. AI is moving so fast, right? So you're talking 18 months. Are we going to be so far behind the curve that it's going to impact us? Or?
Excuse me. So that's a very good question. I think what we've been talking with leadership about is the most important thing is us establishing some base understanding and agreement around AI, right, before we kind of start deploying it. I think AI in this environment is not something you can just turn on. It has to be a slow kind of incremental aspect. And so what we're really suggesting, Councilmember Boyce, is not to say in 18 months, let's turn it on. Let's start to slowly release and trickle small aspects of it. And then what we hope is by we hit the 18 months, we now have it really having impactful and meaningful results within the city.
There's one other question. My Kiva, is it completely dead?
I'm happy to say Kiva is completely 100% decommissioned and offline. Yeah,
Good.
It was a very big day.
Yes, it was. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's our AI strategy. Next, I believe you guys have seen this, but really just to provide an update on our enterprise architecture program as it relates to new construction around Keyhawk, as well as what we're doing over at the ASB building. This is another very important initiative, and again, just a high-level diagram to display and show all the city locations and the connection paths between them. again, with the construction of Keyhawk and ASB, this really gave us a chance as a city to throw out their greater preparedness for our disaster recovery and business continuity efforts. Okay. And this is just a dashboard on an active project that we're currently running in IT that's enterprise-wide. We are deploying Teams Phone. This is to replace our existing city on-premise phone solution with a cloud-based phone solution, which is for Microsoft and its Teams. We'll look to consolidate or decommission the outdated telecommunication systems and hardware, reducing infrastructure, footprint, and operational complexity. We've gotten through just about half of the departments and city locations with the deployment of Teams phones, and we're looking to then deploy now to court, our police department, and to ShoWare. In progress, we're having a lot of great training, we're getting a lot of great feedback, and really just in regards to Teams Phone and its usage. So what we've done in collaboration with communications, we've created what we call Ready, Set, Dial webinars and Go Live success sessions, which are ongoing. And this is really just kind of a reference page because, again, we're cherry picking some of the projects or technology initiatives that we felt like we wanted to share and provide an update to City Council on. This is, again, a stats page on all of the technology initiatives, at least that the IT department, our department, is undertaking. So for administration, one project that we'd like to highlight, which is directly related to what council is doing, is our IQM2 replacement. So IQM2 has been determined to be sunset by Granicus, which is our vendor, and through our work with Melissa and with Kim in the city clerk's department who manages IQM2, through some vendor analysis and evaluation, we're just going to be looking to move to Granicus's new and in parallel solution, One Meeting. Right now, the team has recently completed their requirements worksheets with the vendor, their get it started, kickoff meetings, and we're already holding configuration workshops with an ultimate deployment target for Q4 of this year. Okay. So Q2 in our administration highlight page. And then next we'll dive into finance. A couple of the efforts we wanted to dive into here was, of course, DataNow, the replacement of our utility billing system, also the second half of our ERP, which is our JDE Financials replacement project, following our HCM project and our deployment to Workday. And to Council President's earlier comments, just wanted to touch base at a high level on some of the completed initiatives within our business license and our tax systems, which is, again, run by finance, owned by finance, but are products that have been developed in-house by our in-house development team. And we're already in conversation with them to determine what enhancements and upgrades are needed for our existing tax and business license systems from a development standpoint with Michelle and her team for 27 and 28, which is next biennium. So for DataNow, last update, I think you guys are aware we've selected Vertex One. There's a lot of great work going on there. We do ultimately have a mid-2027 deployment date. When we did finalize the contract with the vendor, it was about an 18-month deployment timeline, but a lot of good work is going on right now. The vendor is meeting with finance and all the involved players to really understand their business processes, document those, gather the requirements to then ensure that they can be configured. In the new system, we're already starting to train administrators of the system, as well as look at the legacy data that was produced in DataNow, which is again 25 plus years old, and start to transform that so that we can get that cleanly migrated into Vertex One. But that project's looking good. It's real healthy and underway. And then on the other side of finance, we have our JDE Financials replacement project, which I would say really just kind of kicked off and started. What's in progress right now is we're starting to do deep dive into process workflows with departments, get those documented so that we have a good list of high-level requirements and our business processes so that we could throw out an RFI, RFP to potentially participating vendors in that space. What we've completed again is, our first round of vendor demonstrations. So the finance team and select finance users or JDE users within the departments have been doing a little bit of window shopping. So they've already had some meetings with 6 to 7 different vendors in this space. And then these are some of the completed and or active initiatives for our tax system and our business license system. Our finance stats page. And then we get into PD. Obviously, a little bit earlier I mentioned we did deploy our Axon RMS as well as our Black Creek JMS products along with critical integrations to Valleycom. What's current right now is our work with WSP and implementing the traffic ticket system sector. It's being replaced by TRAX, and it's critical for public safety that we get this new system TRAX integrated with Axon RMS. But at the same time, just because we now deployed our jail management system, Black Creek. In the next slide, I'll go over in detail just a little bit on the jail control management system. So a lot of activity, at least by way of new technology, has been taking place over at our corrections facility. Just last year, we deployed new internal cameras and external cameras. We just deployed a new records management system for our corrections department, our corrections folks. And now we're going to be looking to replace their 20-plus-year-old control management system. And this is really just about access controls, doors, controlling the doors, controlling the cameras as well. So it's critical that that be updated and replaced. Okay. Our police stats page. And then for parks, one that we thought we'd kind of cherry pick and let council know about as it really just kind of impacts residents from a parks perspective. In 2022, we deployed RecTrack, which it was the class replacement for our recreation management system. And now we're going through a couple of enhancements. We recently purchased the courts module for RecTrack, was essentially a reservation systems for being able to reserve pickleball courts, basketball courts, volleyball courts. We also just deployed an SMS system so that residents can get notifications via text message on their phone now, which has been massively helpful in terms of some of the feedback that we've gotten from the park staff. And this is to either pay your bill, notifications for new programs that are now available for you to sign up, and it provides links via text message so that you can hook directly to your phone. And we're also excited about, Parks is also really excited about deploying the web app, a phone app for RecTrack. So this, again, just gives residents the ability to manage their reservations, sign up for new programs for themselves, for their kids, directly over your phone through a web app. Okay. So our park stat page.
So going back to the last slide, Brian.
Yeah.
There's none, right there. No, sorry, the parks.
Parks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see a few camera projects canceled. So there's like the City Hall, Centennial, Senior Center, and Golf. Are they just canceled or, sorry, go one forward? Projects, were for parks.
Oh, projects for parks.
Here, right here.
Yes.
So I'm talking about the canceled ones right there.
Yes. Well, sometimes, so a little bit of background in our council projects, and I can look into these specifically and get you the answer. For the most part, a lot of our initiatives, I would say a majority of them, do not get canceled. What will happen is the scope of those initiatives will get wrapped into a larger either project and or program. We're actively still deploying if I'm reading those ones correctly, we're actually still deploying those new cameras for the facilities with parks through their new solution for CADA.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And then quick mention for a couple of public works projects which are really, really critical, just in the sense that they have been recently deployed, our fleet management system, Faster, and Prism, which is our control and management system for fats, oils, and grease. But we're really looking forward to getting into new conversation with Public Works for the new biennium because they have some pretty critical initiatives that they have already proposed that we potentially look to submit some funding for that I wanted to give council a heads up on. One of them is our CityWorks cloud migration. They deployed CityWorks back in 2017. CityWorks on-premise site is being deprecated and looking to sunset, so they're forcing users in cities, municipalities to move to the cloud. SCADA, which is our water quality control system and has been for quite some time, is in line to be replaced. So that's a big one, so heads up there. And then DeGraph, which is our construction management project solution, is also in line for being replaced. So a couple of critical public works callouts in preparation for a 27-28 biennium. Okay. And then the rest of the pages and or slides on the deck really just are the stats pages for our ECD, HR, legal, and our court departments. Right now we don't have any active technology initiatives with them, but IT staff, management, as well as the project managers are looking to reach out to these departments to talk about their potential technology and initiatives based on new programs and or services for 27-28. So although they might have nothing active right now, they could have for the next biennium.
Thank you, Brian. Questions? Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say, hey, this roadmap was something that you had your footprint on quite some time. James, that's why I was happy to see, you fall into the step for what you and Mike put together. And so, 'cause sometimes you get new leadership, new director to come in and want to change everything. But you guys have been really true to the roadmap, which is good. So I want to give kudos to you and your team, and kudos to you, Brian, for just kind of stepping in the shoes and making sure we carry out on some of these here very complicated program. I mean, we go back, 7, 8, 9 years ago, our IT was duct tapes and bubble gum, right? So you guys have really done a phenomenal job. The team has done a phenomenal job. So thank you both, and really feel good about our ID department around safety and security and so on. So I wish I got a text from James' wife, right? And I said, wow, not a text, but an email. And it just didn't look right. And I said, I'm not going to click on this here. Then I forward on to him. He said, well, you passed the test, Bill. So, but really, good job what you guys are doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. And again, it goes back to earlier comments that we're super appreciative of all the support that we get from the top down in this organization, because to Bill's point, it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of hands. This is not just IT work. This is literally us working with every department as a partner. So it really does, it's kind of a thank you to everybody in the city. So.
Any other questions or comments? And I want to say, Councilmember Boyce, I've been into Mike's office before, had a big roadmap. That didn't look like a roadmap, but that was his roadmap. I mean, it was, and you guys didn't print out big roadmaps for us today like he usually did for presentations, so I missed that. But you did a great job. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, James. And I think we're heading in the right direction. Obviously, we're a little behind private sector, but I think we're doing a good job. And as long as I think Councilmember Michaud actually brings up the point of paying bills and auto pay, I think we would be finally in a new era. But no, I appreciate all the work you're doing, and thank you for the presentation today. So
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. And we are adjourned until 7 o'clock for council meeting. Thank you.